Hi, sweet girl. Oh, I'm so happy to see you all. Okay.
All right, guys, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. And then as more people roll in, that is totally okay. So I'm just going to mute a couple of people just so we don't get some background noise. Here we go. All right, everyone. My name is Alessandra Birding. I am the Associate Director of Alumni Programs at Trinity. We are so excited to have you all here today. Also on the line, we have Stephanie Melvin, who is the Director of Alumni Programs at Trinity. We're really excited to have you all here today. Just a couple of things. For the moment, unless otherwise directed by Rachel, if you have any questions, just put them in the chat box for us and we're able to answer them there. Just make sure you have the Everyone tab selected so everyone can see your question, or if you have a question privately to me that you select myself. And then I'm going to turn it over to Rachel in just a second, and then she's going to do a little presentation for you all, and then afterward we'll have a couple minutes for questions as well. And then we also are recording this, so if anyone has any questions or would like to see it again, it'll be up on our website probably in a couple of days. And then I do have Rachel's bio here, so I'm going to just read that really quickly before I turn it over to her. The 2020-2021 school year is Rachel's 8th year as an early childhood educator. Her classrooms have been in Wisconsin, Maryland, Kenya, Washington, D.C., and Virginia. Her BSED and MAT are in early child education, and her licensure and endorsements include K-12 SPED, K-12 ESOL, and K-12 reading specialist. She served as an adjunct professor at Trinity Washington University, and her first children's book, Maggie the Moo Maid, was published in April 2020. Rachel is currently studying at George Mason University towards a PhD in ECE/SPED and learning technologies. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you now, Rachel.
Thank you so much, Alessandra. Hi, everybody. I'm very excited to see so many of your faces. When I was invited to speak at Trinity, at first I was thinking, who am I going to invite outside of Ronnie? Because I'm thinking Ronnie's the only person who's had me as a student or like had me as a teacher. So I'm like, who am I going to invite from Trinity? And then I realized that I never got to have a publishing party for Maggie the Moo Maid, because Maggie came out on April 9th, 2020, and we were in full coronavirus lockdown. And so with that being said, I never got to celebrate the way I wanted to. And so now I'm looking at the computer and I see people's faces who are in Massachusetts. I see students who are in my class right now. I see students who are in my class in Washington, D.C. I see students in my class from Kenya. I see students in my class when I was teaching at Trinity. I see best friends. My sister-in-law is here. I just think this is probably the coolest thing. Oh my gosh, and one of my professors from Trinity just logged in as well. So this is the coolest thing. If you would like to be in a picture, literally just something that I can keep for myself, please smile right now. And if you do not want to be in a picture for my memory book, please turn off your camera. Because Hi Daksha. Ready? 1, 2, 3, yeah. Say peace.
Peace.
Hi, Dr. Dawkins. I'm so glad you're here. Oh my gosh. Okay. So, Alessandra, thank you so much for the introduction. Again, thank you for inviting me. First graders, if you are here, same rules apply as in class. If you have a question, then by all means, you can type a Q in the chat box. And then when Mrs. Terlop is finished speaking, then I'll ask you, okay? And for everyone else just joining, the link I just sent in the chat box is a quick YouTube video. And what it is an explanation of my presentation. This evening, the Google slide presentation I'm going to be sharing with you has some interactive links. So if you would like to open up the YouTube video and watch what I mean when I say interactive links, please do so. Alessandra, would you mind broadcasting this on the main screen for everybody who is not able to access the chat box? Thank you. Alessandra, the way it is right now, there's no volume. Is there any way to adjust that? All right. If we are unable to adjust the volume, here's the big takeaway that I want you to know.
Sorry about that, guys. I think I was on mute, which is why I think this was on mute.
That's okay.
Give me 1 second. Let me see if this volume works. Is that working now?
Were pictures of my
Yes,
element.
ma'am.
Okay, there we go. Sorry about that, everyone.
My name is Rachel Terlop, and I'm thrilled to be with you this evening. This presentation this evening has a lot of interactive features. What I'm showing for you right now is this. If you want more information on anything that I speak about this evening, please know that anything with a blue arrow can be clicked on. For example, what I'm clicking on right now is a free copy of Maggie the Moo Maid. So if you want to read the story Maggie the Moo Maid, it is there for you. A lot of the other pictures that I clicked on before were pictures of my elementary school, college, etc. This, what I'm showing you right now, is a link to more information about the real Maggie, information about my professors at Trinity, Washington University. One of my professors, Dr. Dawkins, she has her books and her website. I want to make sure you have access to those. The other links that I'm about to show you are from my other professor, Dr. Steen. These are links to her academic works that have been published. So if you are interested in learning about encouraging oral language, or if you are interested in learning about the school to prison pipeline, these are articles that I want to make sure you have access to, because Dr. Steen's work is the reason that I'm at George Mason University. So I want to make sure that you know that you have access to all of her work, as well as my other professors at Trinity, Washington University. Throughout this presentation, there might be information or links to things that you may or may not care about. What I do want you to know is this. It's up to you what you click on this evening. I'm going to tell you a story about how I came to write Maggie the Moo Maid. There's so much that goes into making one book. And as an educator, I want to make sure you know all of the people and all of the teachers I had who helped me get there. For example, this is my former principal, Miss Sykes. Miss Sykes is one of my biggest cheerleaders. President McGuire at Trinity, Washington University. She is someone who really pushed me and said, yes, yes, yes. This is a link to her blog. I feel that what she has to say is very important, and I wanted to make sure I offered it to you. So through this presentation tonight, there are a lot of things you can click on. There are other things you can't, just pictures of meaningful people to me. And so, oh, this one, for example, this is a quote that I said, but what I did was I linked it to my mom. And the reason you need to
You are ready to turn me off, Alessandra. Please go for it. Thank you so much. So for those of you who do have access to the chat box, I have just sent an additional link. It says this is the slide deck, and feel free to click on it if you would like to. If not, feel free to just sit and listen. I'm going to invite Alessandra to share slides at different moments. And so, Alessandra, if you could be so kind, would you mind opening up to the very first slide and sharing the screen? Thank you so much, ma'am. So now that you have some background on what we're doing and how this presentation works, oh my gosh, Alessandra, would you be so kind as to switch to the Google slide presentation as opposed to the PDF file? Thank you so much. If you do have this slide deck open and you are on slide 1, It says Trinity Talks Maggie the Mermaid, and I am honored to be invited as an alumni of Trinity Washington University to talk about my book, Maggie the Mermaid. And on this first page, you see a bunch of different pictures, maybe flags or maybe schools. Starting on the furthest left, there is an Ohio flag, followed by a brown square that says BW. That is where I went to undergrad. Next to that is the state of Wisconsin, which is the first place I taught. After that is the country flag of Kenya, another place I taught. Following that is the DC flag, which is where I taught. And then there's Trinity Washington University, of course. The arrow underneath that one leads you to the Trinity bookstore, because how else? Finally, the last three icons you see are for where I am now in my career. I am in Fairfax County Public Schools. I am at Pine Spring Elementary School, and I am a student at George Mason University. Then the final person you see in the corner is my grandmother. And my grandmother turned 100 years old in August, and this is a picture of her receiving a copy of Maggie the Mermaid. This is so wildly meaningful to me because my grandma was a teacher for her entire career. And my grandma actually went to Baldwin Wallace University, which is where I got my undergraduate teacher training. So everything to me comes back full circle, and it comes back with family. Alessandra, could you please go to slide 2? So for those of you who do know me, and for those of you who have been in my class or are in my class, you know that I am currently going to school at nighttime to earn my doctorate of early childhood special education at George Mason University. And the reason slide 2 is on the screen is because in order for me to talk about Maggie the Mermaid, I have to talk about my positionality and where I am as a person and as a researcher. And this is the first thing I learned when I got to George Mason, where I'm currently a student. So circling the person in the middle, that bright purple person, you see there's a bunch of different words. Words like occupation, age, ability, gender, immigration status, religion, ethnicity, education. All of those words and all of those things I could talk about, those define me as a person, or they make up who I am as a person, because not one thing ever actually defines me. So if we're thinking about geographic location as something that impacts you, where are you living? Feel free to type in the chat box right now where you are currently living, if that's something you're comfortable for. You don't have to put your full address. That's, oh, look. More people have come on this call. Hi, Liza. Thank you. Hi, Leica. Thank you. Hi, Ronnie. Oh, thank you, everybody. I'm so happy you're here. Awesome. So our different locations and where we live make up a part of who we are. And for me, I thought this was an appropriate place to start with how I came to write Maggie the Mermaid, because where we grow up and who we learn from is one of the biggest parts of how we grow and develop as a person. Alessandra, would you mind going to slide number 3? Thank you, ma'am. So my whole presentation tonight is going to be a long story about the dedication. So what you're looking at right now on slide 3 is this. The dedication page on the inside of Maggie the Mermaid. It says, to the most magical people, Chris, Josephine Bird, Maggie Eaton, and you. Create your own reality and shine within it. If you do have this slide deck open yourself, you can click on Maggie the Mermaid or the arrow. If you click on the blue arrow in the center, it will take you to a free copy of Maggie the Mermaid if that is something you are interested in saving on your computer. and if that is something that you are interested in reading later. However, Alessandra, can you please take us to slide 4? In order for you to understand the dedication at the beginning of the book to the most magical people, Chris, Josephine Bird, Maggie Eaton, and you have to meet Maggie. So on slide 4, this is Maggie. Maggie is and was one of my teachers when I was at Baldwin Wallace University in Ohio. So Maggie came to me and she was my supervisor when I was learning to be a teacher. So if you have never been a teacher, here's what happens. You go through all of this coursework and you are learning how to do what's best for kids. You are learning how to make sure students feel seen, heard, and valued. And then you are given a professor. And this professor comes in and they watch you teach. And this professor, their job is to give you feedback. What's going well, what you can grow on, all of those big important things that help you train. Maggie, Dr. Eaton, or Professor Eaton rather, her job was to give me feedback. And that happened almost 10 years ago. So my professor, Maggie Eaton, she just cheered me on every day. She came to school to watch me teach more than she needed to. She was supposed to come 3 times in one semester. She came every week, if not twice a week. And she sat in the back of the classroom, and just as I was teaching, she would cheer me on. And getting in front of a group of people is one of the scariest things that you can do. It is so vulnerable. It is so nerve-wracking to have to talk to people, especially when you care about them, which is why I'm so nervous right now as I talk to you all, because I have people from all parts of my life on this call right now. But Maggie was the person who stood in the back and cheered. And she cheered for me the entire time, and she still cheers for me. I spoke with her yesterday on the phone. We try to make it a goal to talk at least once a month. But she's still cheering me on 10 years later. So when I was thinking, who am I going to name this character in my book after? It's Maggie, because she is the person who just always said, yes, you can do anything. Alessandra, would you be so kind as to go to slide 5? Thank you, ma'am. So, Miss Leica, I know you're on this call. You also have a small picture here. What you see on slide 5 is my experiences post-grad. So after I graduated from Baldwin Wallace University, I moved to Wisconsin to start my first career. And I was teaching at a preschool in Green Bay, Wisconsin, in a church basement, and it was called the Shepherd's Kids. And I had the most incredible boss. And the head of our school, what she said was, if it's good for kids, then I will find money for it. So our classroom had 8-foot-tall spider webs. We had fish races. When we wanted to talk about worms, we got dirt and we got worms, and the kids dug through the worms. And so she just said, yes, if it's good for kids, then it's good for me. And in the middle of my first year teaching, my partner got offered a dream job in Washington, D.C. And so in March of my first year teaching, I had to go to my principal, my boss, and say, excuse me, my husband just got this dream job. I need to stay here in Wisconsin and he'll move. And she said, absolutely not. You need to go be with your partner. And so I moved. And I moved to Gaithersburg, Maryland. And when I was in Gaithersburg, Maryland, I substitute taught for a month. I was looking for jobs. I even interviewed in a closet at one point for a teaching job. And my partner said, what do you want to do? Because it's not teach in a closet. And I said, you're right. That's not what I want to do with my time. So he said, do whatever you want, which is how I ended up in Kenya. I applied for an international preparatory school position. Within 24 hours, I had an interview with Mrs. Cousins, who just sounds like Mary Poppins. And within 48 hours, I had signed a contract. And within 3 weeks, I was on a plane to Nairobi, Kenya. And so I left my partner here. I went to Kenya, and I spent the next year teaching at one of the most magical schools. Leica, you are on this phone call. How would you describe Kenton? Like, what kind of magic is that place?
It's very interesting, and it's not much like any school I've ever been to. It's I don't know how to describe it that well, but it's just a really cool place, and it's hard to forget anything that happened there.
Yeah, thank you, Leica. Leica was in my 3T classroom, year 3, and she and I, every day, we would play Lindsay Sterling. If you haven't heard of Lindsay Sterling, please look up her violin music. And Leica and I would play Lindsay Sterling every day, and we would dance on the circle time rug, and that was just our happy place. Mr. Patrick, you are also on this phone call. Do you have anything to add about the magic of Kenton? And if not, that's okay. I'm totally putting you on the spot. That's okay. Patrick, I know there's nothing you love more than talking in front of people.
Exactly.
Thank you. Okay, so long story short, Kenya was an incredible experience. I made some of my best friends there, met some incredible children, and my classroom was on over 20 acres of land. So we would open up our door and we would go out and play in the woods. We called it the Longies. And we would go, and the kids would have civil wars in this forest. We would have to have drills because we would have literal monkeys come in our classroom or try to come in our classroom. We had birds in our classroom. A school down the street had to cancel their rugby or their cricket match because there was a lion on the pitch. So we just had some really magical experiences there. Alessandra, would you mind going to slide 6? I know I thought I wasn't going to share the screen the whole time, but this is how it's worked out. So slide 6 shows you what happened when I came home. So when I came home from Kenya, it was because I was told by my master's program, you have to physically be here to take class. Go figure. And I ended up switching from a college called Hood College in Maryland to Trinity, Washington, D.C. And at Trinity, Washington, D.C., I had 2 of the best professors that I have ever had. So if you see the picture that has 3 arrows pointing to it, that is work from one of my professors. Her name is Dr. Steen. Dr. Steen was my professor at Trinity, Washington University. Dr. Steen was my mentor teacher, so she did the same job as Mrs. Eaton did, Maggie. She would come in my classroom, she would watch me teach, she would give me feedback. And then she ended up, when I finished my degree at Trinity, Washington, she was the person who hired me and said, you are going to be a professor. That's what you're doing. So my time in DC was very special because I got to learn from her as a teacher and a mentor, and then I got to learn from her as a boss. And she helped me navigate becoming a professor and what it meant to be on the other side of the room, right? So instead of only teaching the tiniest of people, now I was teaching some of the adults. Additionally, on this page, you will see an Instagram handle of Professor Dawkins. And Dr. Dawkins was the person at Trinity who pushed me to think outside of my previous experiences. Like you saw, I grew up in Ohio. I went to school in Ohio. I moved to Wisconsin. Then I ended up in Kenya. Now I'm in DC. And Dr. Dawkins was like, listen, let me tell you, there is so much more to the world that you have not seen yet. Dr. Dawkins was the person who introduced ethnography to me and how research could be so wildly impactful. So Dr. Dawkins, do you have anything to add to that, or would you like to share about your book? I know your website is linked, but if you have anything I forgot, please, by all means. I keep putting people on the spot, so my apologies. On the other side of the screen, what you see is pictures of children. And while I was in DC, and I was in Dr. Dawkins' class, her class was the assignment Maggie the Moo Maid came from. When I was a student in her class, that was one of our big assignments. She said, write a children's book. Okay, so I wrote Maggie the Moo Maid. And then, Alessandra, would you mind circling that purplish picture in the bottom corner? That is my hand-painted Maggie the Moo Maid, where I used some construction paper and crayons, and I made my own version of Maggie the Moo Maid, and I presented it in Dr. Dawkins' class. DC was the first place I read Maggie the Moo Maid. Ross Elementary School was the first place that I actually realized that Maggie the Moo Maid was so wildly important. Marta, I see that you are here, and I saw Alexander is here. Do you have anything to share about Ross and writing? Yes, Miss Marta.
I remember there was like a day where we all like got to write our own little books with like partners. And then I remember when we went on off-campus lunch, you and then a few friends, and then you said, and then you were like, guess what, I wrote a book and then sent it to Shout Mouse, and like it might get published or something. And
Thanks, Marta. Alexander, Valentina, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, my favorite part of writing was writing our own like story. Like we when we would have to like write the climax and stuff. I liked that part, which was pretty exciting. So that was probably the best part about writing.
I am so with you. The right? Like, that's the part we would put all of the details in. Miss Valentina, are you there or not available right now? It is okay if you're not.
Hi. So, one of my favorite parts about doing the stories is that we got to write about basically anything if it was like in the guidelines of what we were supposed to do, and it was kind of cool to make up our own ideas and yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Oh, it's so good to hear your voice, Tina. So, DC was a big. I accidentally just muted myself because that's, the point we're at in the night. And so I had lots of people cheering me on, both professors at Trinity and students, because every day we would do writer's workshop and we would think, okay, what's the story going to be? What are we going to write now? And that's still true today. So I have some first graders who are here right now. And before I move on, KK, do you have anything to add about stories or story mountains? Sophia, do you have anything? KK, you're muted. If you want to talk at college, you've got to unmute.
Story mountains.
What about them?
They have characters from a book, and they show people what the book is about.
Thank you. Marvelous. Evan B, do you have anything to add? Or Evan T? No, it's okay. You don't have to. So DC was a very impactful place. Alessandra, if you could be so kind as to go to slide 7, because now I get to give Ronnie her shout out. So again, Trinity was a place where I went from student to adjunct professor. And in this time, I had the privilege of teaching some of the most incredible humans I have ever met. Ronnie, do you have anything to share about our time together in class? Anything we worked on? The reason I'm including you in this is because when I found out Maggie the Moo Maid was going to be published, it was while I was in class with these gorgeous women. And I came running in and was like, I have something to tell you. And they knew before my partner did. So Ronnie, do you have anything to add?
Yes, I just want you to know that I've also shared this great book with my sisters. They live in Nigeria, so they love the book. My stepmother is here, so I'm hoping to send a few copies with her because she is a school teacher there. And I have a couple of friends and family who are in education in Nigeria also. But yes, the energy that you gave us in class, you know, the strength, the courage to get us through. You always taught us to meet the students and the families where they were, the uplifter and the courage. So that really got us through. And actually now we need you back over at Trinity. So you know how I feel about that. But we love you. Congratulations. And we're looking for the next chapter in your life. And there's going to be more books, more articles. And thank you for all you've done for us.
Thank you. That means a lot because we had Friday night class, we had late at night class, and so just learning to be teachers together and making it work. And so part of the reason I'm telling you this is because I want you to know that what I was teaching in my classroom with the tiniest of people, I was also teaching in my classroom with adults, and I was trying to do it myself too. Because my thought is, if I'm going to ask students of any age to write a book like Dr. Dawkins did to me when I was in college, I also need to be the person who models how to do that. Bye, KK. Thank you so much, Toretta family. So on slide 8, if you could please go there, Miss Alessandra. This is where I'm at now. I'm currently in Fairfax County Public Schools. I'm currently teaching at Pine Spring Elementary School, and I'm currently at George Mason. I currently have Maggie the Moo Maid out. She's on shelves. She's at Barnes & Noble. I've got to read her in class. And you can see that through the timeline, it wasn't just oh, I wanted to write a book, so I did. The reason I'm talking about this from a teacher perspective is because I wanted to show the timeline it took and all the people I had to meet in order to write one book. The reason I chose a picture of Carl and the Meaning of Life is because that is the children's book that we read this week in first grade. So, do I have any first graders who want to talk about Carl and the Meaning of Life, or should we move on? Do you want to talk, Sophia? I see you.
It talks about what every animal is supposed to do. Carl doesn't know what he's supposed to do until the animals show him what to do.
You got it. Thank you, ma'am. You're absolutely right. Carl is a worm. He's trying to figure out the meaning of life. What am I supposed to do? All these other animals, they're doing bigger things than me. I'm down here, I'm fluffing dirt around. And so Carl was the book we read this week, and we talked about what the meaning of life is, right? Big conversations in first grade, big conversations. And one of the things that we talked about with Carl and the Meaning of Life is staying true to yourself, because everybody has their strengths, everybody. And so that's why I shared this book alongside Maggie the Moo Maid, because that's the message that I hoped to implant within Maggie. And that's what I share with my students. If you have read Maggie, you might understand. If you have not read Maggie, again, a free copy is linked for you to read it. But essentially, it's staying true to who you are, no matter what anybody tells you. In the book Maggie the Mermaid, there are dolphins who are being quite sassy. And they're saying, no, you can't be a mermaid. You can't be. That's not what manatees do. Manatees are sea cows. Well, guess what Maggie does? She just does it more, does it louder, and does it with flash. So, Miss Alessandra, if you would be so kind to go to slide 9, this is also where I'm at right now. I mentioned that I'm in a first grade position. I'm also at George Mason, and what I'm studying is how to better teach. I want to make sure that if I'm teaching kids, I'm teaching them the best way they can. Miss Marta and I were talking earlier about how she would prefer to do in-person learning. And I gave her a me too, because I was like, oh, I would give anything to be safe and around kids. And so what I'm studying at George Mason is how to teach any kid in any environment with any type of need, right? So whether you communicate nonverbally, whether you choose to draw instead of writing words, whether you like big movements or you like small movements, all of those things are important and valid. And that's what I'm studying, is about how we can teach children to feel empowered, to stay true to themselves at all times. Two of the people on this call are the greatest educators I have ever had the pleasure of knowing. One of them is my sister-in-law. Katie, do you have anything that you want to add to early childhood special education and the thoughts around that? Also, you don't have to be on the spot.
Hi, guys. I teach in Ohio, and we are 5 days a week in school, so definitely living a different reality than Rachel is. But I teach 4th, 5th, and 6th grade special education. I have students that are, they have mild disabilities, and we are full inclusion, which is something different that I've never done before. So I teach all of my students, even when they're at a kindergarten level at reading. I'm teaching them inside a 6th grade classroom with chapter books. And it's just a lot of guided readings, and we just do what works for us. We play with blocks and manipulatives and finger reading and pair share, and yeah, so super fun.
Thank you, Katie. My best friend Liza is also on this. Liza is the head of elementary religious school at Temple Sinai. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, mostly.
Do you have anything to add about like just doing what's best for kids in any environment, especially because you're in an administrative standpoint?
So I am the Assistant Director of Childhood Engagement and Learning at Temple Sinai in Washington, D.C., and we are fully virtual in our programs with some like supplemental social experiences in small groups in person. And now more than ever, we are just seeing the importance of connection at the base of learning and helping students feel safe and connected and heard, and really fostering that sense of significance and belonging and fun in whatever learning space you're in. So that's what I got.
Thank you, Liza. So you're probably starting to see a trend of why I invited all of these people to this event, because they are all the people who have impacted me, helped me become a better teacher, and they are the people who have pushed me towards like doing what I'm doing with Maggie the Mermaid now. On slide 10, it brings us back to like, we are here, we're at Trinity. The blue link on slide 10 pointing at the Trinity logo will direct you to President McGuire's blog if that's something you're interested in later. And then Alessandra, could you please go to slide 11? Slide 11 says the why. The why of this, the why of Maggie, the why I'm teaching, the why I'm here, the why. For kids to share their opinions, to share their insights, to share their life, because child voice is just as powerful as adult voice. And it does not matter how old you are, expression is expression, And it can be oral expression, it can be written expression, it can be picture-based expression. Your ability to verbally speak does not determine how intelligent you are. And that is something I learned from my dear friend Sarah, who's also on this. Sarah, do you have anything to add about ableism in education? If not, I apologize for putting you on the spot.
Can you see me?
I can!
Oh, awesome. So my name is Sarah Frechette, and right now I'm teaching in Central Massachusetts. And I think one of the greatest parts about you, Rachel, and your practice is how rooted you are in inclusion. As a teacher of students with severe and profound disabilities, it is rare that that amount of representation is evident, from planning a project to what comes out and is readily available to students. So I think this is really awesome, and I'm so excited to see where you go next.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. On slide 12, Alessandra, if you have a moment, there is a quote, and this quote is from me. When I was thinking about the style of this presentation, when Alessandra invited me, she said it was a TED Talk style, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's nothing I love more than listening to TED Talks and like having that one quote that I walk away. So I was like, let me share mine. I wrote, here's what I wrote. I said, surround yourself the people who tell you to take on the world safely. And then when I was talking to my mom this morning and I was practicing presenting this, my mom said, you forgot the word with. So I wanted to make sure you knew that I had to insert that caret and the word with. So my quote that I hope you take away from this tonight is, surround yourself with the people who tell you to take on the world safely. There are so many people who care, there are so many people who care about me, which is evident by this phone call right now, by this Zoom. The people in Ohio who helped raise me, the people in Wisconsin and Kenya and DC and Maryland and Virginia who helped me get my ideas out into the world. Maggie the Moo Maid would not be here without you. And because I invited you tonight, it's because you've also helped me do it safely, right? Because that element of mental safety, physical safety, just safety to be who I am as a person, all of that is embedded within Maggie. Because in Maggie the Moo Maid, she wears a mermaid costume. And people tell her, no, you can't do that. And guess what? She has her moms. Her moms are her safe people that say, yeah, you can. You can do it. We've got you. We're right here. And so all of you are people who have told me, yeah, you can do that. And we're right here behind you. So this is my, very formal and public thank you to all of you. Because Maggie wouldn't exist without you. On slide 13, Alessandra, people will see a lovely picture of my grandmother because it is almost 7 o'clock and my grandmother is 100 and she's gonna be asleep by 7:30. So that's who I'm calling as soon as I hang up with y'all. If you have questions for me, now is the perfect time to ask them. And Alessandra, would you mind stopping sharing the screen for just a moment? Thank you. All right. Anybody questions?
Rachel, I have a question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
Could you give us maybe like a minute synopsis on, so you wrote the book, how did you get it published? What were the maybe like 3 important steps or 4 important steps to actually getting it in Barnes & Noble?
Yes, ma'am. So step 1 is write it. Step 2 would be show it to 3rd graders and have them critique it because they're going to give you the honest feedback. Thank you, Marta and Alexander and Valentina. And then from there, you have to submit it to a publisher. Now, there's lots of publishers, but here are the 2 worlds. There are the publishers that are like the big ones in New York who you have to have an agent for, and then your agent submits the work, and then it's a maybe, and then it's all very business. Then there's other publishers. There's hometown publishers like the one Maggie's published through. She's published through Mascot Books. I approached Mascot Books. I said, I've got an idea. They said, guess what? We're a book publisher that's made up of teachers. Let's hear your book. So I pitched to them. They said yes. And that's how the process started. Now, with the business publishers, what happens is they buy your idea. So they will offer you money up front, and they'll say, we'll give you this amount. And then they take your book, and it's pretty much no longer your book. With Mascot, what happens is I paid them up front. I said, I want to make 500 books, please. And they said, great, it'll cost this much. And then I said, I also don't want to do the pictures myself. I want to see somebody else's art. So I paid an artist to do the pictures. And then Mascot took the pictures, took the words, put them together, and voila, 500 books of Maggie the Mermaid exist in the world. Now I say voila, but this was a process that took, as Marta and Alex and Valentina and Ronnie and y'all can attest to, this took over a year from submission to completion. It was March of 2019 when I submitted Maggie to Mascot. It was April 9th, 2020 when Maggie was released. So it took some time. Does that answer your question? Marvelous. Are there any?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah. Questions, comments, concerns, thoughts?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you going to write another book, or do
Oh
you
my
have
God,
another
yes.
one
Okay,
in the
so-
making?
Yes, so I actually have another book under contract. I have not signed the contract yet. Because I would like to continue working with Mascot. Mascot requires, again, that you pay first, then get the books. So I'm currently in the process of raising money for the second book. The second book is called I Get What I Need to Succeed. What the book is imagine your school. And you have the teachers in the classrooms. However, there's a bunch of other adults in the school. I Get What I Need to Succeed is about explaining what type of services actually are in schools. So what I have done is I have gone through I have gone through at least my school's roster of educators, and I've tried to make a page for each person of their job. So speech and language pathologist, special education teachers, gifted and talented teachers, occupational therapists, English to speakers of other language teachers, adaptive PE teachers. And so the intent is to bring a book to life about school that does not just show general education teacher.
That is absolutely amazing.
Thank you. I would like to sign the contract soon. So
Such a proud sister.
thank you. Any other questions, comments, concerns, or thoughts? Oh, like how am I raising money? Okay, so I made a GoFundMe, right? So that's one way to do it, is to ask people on the internet, hey, can you please help me? And that's one way to do it. I also want you to know, that when I sell Maggie the Mermaid books, I'm not keeping the money. I'm putting that money directly into another bank account that goes towards the next book. So every time somebody buys a copy of Maggie the Mermaid, that's money that goes towards the next book. The other thing I'm doing for money is things like this. So I said I wanted to give my time to Trinity tonight. I'm not getting paid to do this. I just wanted to hang out with you and talk about my book. Now, other schools, like Friends of Katie's, Katie has a principal who's a friend, and she invited me to come to her school through Zoom, because we have to be safe, and read the book to her school and answer kid questions. And I was able to make money by reading my book to kids. It was amazing. So that's how I'm doing it, Leica. Do you have any other suggestions? If you do, please let me know. Any other thoughts?
I have a question.
Yes,
I was able to use your book for my dual language presentation in my class here at Trinity. So everyone really did enjoy it. But I just want to keep you encouraged to continue to make sure your next book is available for dual language learners, because that is very important. And I know you have the audio books and everything, so that was definitely a good take on things to make sure everyone was really able to get the book and really feel the details and everything about it.
That makes me feel so honored. Thank you. Based on what you just said, I put a link in the chat box. The link I just sent you to mrsterlop.com/copy of book, what that takes you to is it takes you to my personal website, and it takes you to the Maggie the Moo Maid page. Bye, Sophia. Have a good night. I'll see you tomorrow morning. And on this page, what you will see are the different translations and audio recordings of Maggie the Moo Maid in other languages. So currently Maggie has been translated into American Sign Language, into Japanese, into Spanish, into Malayalam, into Mandarin, into German, into Telugu, and into Portuguese. So Kiswahili is coming soon. Dutch is coming soon. French is coming soon. But it's a matter of finding people who are willing to translate the book and not only say it, but then type it, so that then I can make adjusted YouTube videos of their voice, words in another language, and then still use those beautiful illustrations. Liza, I saw that you asked a question. What are you most looking forward to in your career as an educator and author? Having representative text of humans in my class is the thing I'm looking most forward to. So Maggie the Moo Maid is a body positivity book. For those of you who know me, I'm 5'11". I'm a full-figured woman. For those of you who have never met me, now you know a little bit more. Maggie the Moo Maid is very much body positivity, and that's a book I didn't have when I was 5'11" in 6th grade. So I had some people who said unkind things to me. Can you believe that, Evan Botball? Can you believe that? I saw that giggle. And so Maggie the Moo Maid is all about inclusivity for body size. Liza, I'm looking forward to writing more books that show students of different backgrounds, cultures, ability, gender, all of that. Speaking of, Miss Alessandra, could you please go to slide 14? If you still have the Google Slide presentation up, I know it is 6:56 and it's almost bedtime. Slide 14 are important books. I put myself over here. There I am, sitting on the floor. Hi, Valentina. And this is me when I found Maggie the Moo Maid at Barnes & Noble the first time. I sat on the floor and I cried because I was so excited. And that's great. If you are looking at slide 14, these are all the other books right now that are in my classroom that are must-haves, and they are wildly important as well. In 2018, it was under 11% of all books that were published had authors and characters that were Black, Indigenous, or people of color. So I want to make sure that if you are interested in purchasing texts for your classroom or your life, you also have representative texts. So here are a plethora of texts for you to choose from, especially this one called Crown, an Ode to a Fresh Cut. That is one of the most gorgeously illustrated books I've ever seen. So Valentina, I see you started typing something. Do you want to finish typing, or would you prefer to unmute and ask? If you think of it, let me know, darling. I was going to ask, are you going to write a book about this quarantine? Also, what tips do you want to give other authors? So Valentina, to answer your first question, I don't think I'm going to write a book about this quarantine. Valentina, if you still have the website address I sent before, on my website, I have my blog, and I did the ABCs of quarantine, but I have not thought anything about turning it into a book. The second question, what tips do you want to give to other authors? My advice is this. Be vulnerable and be brave. Show your work to people that you trust, and keep putting yourself out there. Because the worst thing that happens as an author is that someone tells you no. And guess what? If somebody tells you no, it's not the end of the world. It's not. It stinks and it hurts our feelings, but trying and trying again. And I know that sounds silly, and I know that sounds really easy, especially when it's embarrassing or nerve-wracking, but trying. Valentina, my absolute biggest advice is to try. Miss Alessandra, would you be so kind as to go to slide 15?
Thank you, Mr. Lop.
You're so welcome, kiddo. This is my thank you to you, Ronnie. There's your picture. I promised you that I would put you in. And then slide 16, please, Miss Alessandra. Here is different links if you would like them. So here are also great people reading Maggie the Moo Maid. If you are interested in following Maggie the Moo Maid's Instagram handle, it's there. If you want mine, it's there. If you want my Twitter, it's there. If you want to shop for Maggie at Barnes & Noble, it's there. If you want to shop for Maggie on Mascot Books, it's there. If you want to shop for Maggie on Amazon, it's there. And also, please remember, there's a free copy embedded in this slide presentation, so you do not have to buy her at all. On slide 17, Alessandra, it just goes back to my positionality. My whole talk this evening was about sharing who I am as a person, so you know where I'm coming from when you read Maggie the Moo Maid, and you and encouragement. And slide 18, I told you my big goal for this evening was for you to understand what I meant when I said to the most magical people, Chris, Josephine Bird, Maggie Eden, and you, create your own reality and shine in it. This is Maggie. That little baby is Josephine Bird. And then that silly man sitting on the floor is my partner. That's Chris. They are just the people who always help me safely move forward. And then you, because you're here. And I appreciate you. So slide 19 is the very last one, Alessandra. If you still have this slide deck open, if you want to buy her, you can click on her. She's there. And if you want to read her for free, she's there too. You are welcome to save her on your computer and send it to whoever you want to. I trust you. And with that being said, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Rachel. It was lovely. You are